warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, our group will present about the Workmen Compensation Act 1952. Before that, let me introduce my group members. The first one is Firdaus bin Hassan, Abdul Halim bin Bain, Al-Arif Johan bin Muhammad Sabri, Suzana Ana Ahmad, and the last one, me, Ahmad Arif Husaini bin Muhammad Zaidi. Let me start with the introduction about the Workmen Compensation Act 1952. Initially, foreign workers are protected under Employees Social Security Act, but then it was resolved in 1st April 1992 due to several reasons. There are also funds provided for foreign workers under EPF Act, but it was also resolved in 1st August 1998. Now, their benefits are under Workmen's Compensation, or we know as Foreign Workers Compensation Scheme Order 1998. Okay, on that slide, we all may know that this act only applies to the foreign workers whose earnings are not more than 500 ringgit per month, and all manual workers irrespective of the wage. Okay. Last point for this introduction is there are also funds provided for foreign workers under EPF Act, but it was also resolved in 1st August 1998. Okay, now I will proceed with the history of Workmen Compensation Act 1952. Okay, let's look at this slide. Malaysian workers are no longer covered under the Workmen's Compensation Act 1952 with effective from 1st July 1992. And also local workers will be covered under the Employees Social Security Act 1969.
Okay, the next section is about the coverage of the Workmen Compensation Act 1952. In this part, we will discuss the point which is only foreign workers are covered under this act in respect of compensation for employment injury as well as non-employment injury white Workmen's Compensation Order 1993. This act provides for the compensation payment to an injured employee or worker arising out of and in the course of employment or contracting occupational diseases. Next point is where the employee or worker dies in the event of fatal accident or contracting an occupational diseases or in the course and arising out of performing his duty of work, the Workmen's Compensation Act 1952 provides for the compensation payment to the worker's dependents. This act is administered by the Department of Labour and applies throughout Indonesia.
Okay, thank you. Now we proceed about what the employer responsibility under the Workmen Compensation Act. They have several responsibility that the employer must be follow under the compensation. First, under the foreign worker scheme, an employer of foreign worker is responsible to pay an insurance premium that is 86 ringgit per year for the per worker. There is 11 insurance company that being selected as insurance to issue insurance policy under the foreign worker scheme. There is Amanah General Insurance Berhad, Arab Malaysia Insurance Berhad, London and Pacific Insurance Company Berhad, Maybank Insurance Berhad, M&I Takaful Sdn Berhad, Malaysia British Insurance Berhad, Malaysia National Insurance Berhad, and the Pacific Insurance Berhad. An employer also found guilty of not buying an insurance for workmen compensation shall be liable on conviction or fine of 20,000 ringgit or imprisonment for the term of 2 years or both. Another responsibility of employer that must be followed is not make any deduction of employee salary for premium insurance payment purpose. That is mean an employer is not allowed to deduct the earning of the worker for the payment of insurance premium. If the employer found guilty of such action, shall be liable or conviction to the fine 5,000 ringgit or imprisonment for 1 year term of both. And the last, the employer responsibility is compensation is made and paid directly to the migrant worker.
Next, I will proceed to the procedure. What should be done if a worker is involved in an accident? Each worker involved in an accident must inform the employer within 7 days from the date of such accident, except in the event of fatal accident. An employer must notify the nearest Department of Labour from the place of accident in writing. Such notice must be submitted within 10 days from the date of accident. An employer should ensure that all information is with full details and supporting documents are enclosed, such as a medical certificate or death certificate. An employer must ensure that compensation settlement as determined by the Department of Labour are paid direct to the injured workers by depositing such payment to the Department of Labour as directed. However, compensation settlement cannot be paid direct to the wife, children or dependents, but to be deposited to the Department of Labour concerned. Failure to notify the Department of Labour in the event of an accident is an offence, and the employer shall be liable on conviction to a fine of 5,000 ringgit Malaysia for the first offence and 10 ringgit Malaysia for the second offence.
Now we will proceed to the scope of covers and benefit for the Workmen Compensation Foreign Worker Scheme. In this section, there are covers the insured foreign workers against personal injury by accidents or disease arising out or in the course of employment with the insured. There are 5 parts or benefit that the employee may gain through. The first one is about the death due to employment injury. According to the work hour, the employee will get 60-month earning or 18,000 ringgit, which is ever is less, and also additional payment of 7,000 ringgit as provided under Foreign Worker Compensation Scheme. The next is permanent disablement. The employee will get 60-month earnings or 23,000 ringgit, which is ever is less, and also a sum of money based on the capital sum of 23,000 ringgit calculates accordance with the first schedule of the Workmen Compensation Act, that is for the permanent partial disablement. The next benefit is temporary total loss of income due to the temporary disablement. The employee will get a sum of money calculated in accordance with the Section 8 subsection E of the Workmen Compensation Act. The next part is hospitalization and medical expenses. The employer will pay in accordance with the provision of the Workmen Compensation Act, which is the maximum amount is around 500 to 20 ringgits. And the last part is repatriation due to the death and permanent disablement. The employee only retains 4,800 ringgit. However, there are several penalties if an employee fails to provide insurance for the employee. The first penalty is if the employer found guilty or failed to deduct employee salary to purchase premium insurance, the employer will be fined 5,000 ringgit or 1 year imprisonment or both. The next penalty if the employer failed to purchase employee premium insurance, the employer will be fined 20,000 ringgit or the employer will also be fined if failed to report any kind of the accident happen in the workplace, which is the first is 5,000 ringgit and the second offense is 10,000 ringgit.
With the end of this slide, we may conclude Compensation Act 1952 only available for foreign workers. Therefore, their employers should be alert and give more concern to this act in order to protect the welfare of their foreign employees. That's all from us. Good night and Assalamualaikum.